Yes, good people, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be doing some modifications on my 2x4 plank caster. This started off as a bit of used timber that I found at a local building site. It was covered in cement, there was a couple of offcuts of it, so I thought this would be great for practicing my neck routing, which I did, and then eventually I built this fun little guitar, which actually does sound pretty decent with that Dimarzio Hot Rail there. Now the only problem I had with this guitar was sitting down playing. It was a bit of a pain to play because this bit of wood sort of balanced on your leg and it was like cantilevering, so it's quite hard to play. So I thought I'd think back to the guitars that I like playing. My favourite guitar, sitting down and playing as a jazz master, I find it the most comfortable. So I was trying to work out where the curve goes in regards to the bottom of the guitar, and I had another piece of wood laying around, so I thought I could at least get a couple of little additions to stick onto the side. And then I started thinking about what would work with this, you know, with regards to the shape of it, not having a lot of thickness of wood to work with because I only had two bits of this about the same sort of size. So I looked at the Explorer, where the cutout that rests on your leg is at roughly the same sort of place, so I'm kind of going to go with that option. And I've been chopping out some wood and shaping it, and I'm thinking we should go something along the lines of that, which I think will look pretty darn cool. I did stick this together with some double-sided tape just to see what it feels like sitting down playing, and that cutaway there is pretty comfortable. I recently upgraded my tool collection. I bought this Triton oscillating sander, which is great for doing your curves in them sort of joins and around there. And I've also upgraded my router to a Triton router, and I also bought a Triton belt sander, but I'm not endorsed by them. This is just pretty darn good guitar building equipment. So while I was getting used to using the sander, I sort of did it off camera just to give myself a bit of practice, but I think I've got a pretty darn good shape there. Needs a little bit of tweaking, a little bit more fine sanding, but the basic shape's there. This section right here is going to go all the way through, so I need to cut a little bit off there. I've sort of marked out where I need to trim it, as you can see, so it will just be one continuous piece. I will stain these the same colour. I've also got some Gorilla wood glue and some clamps to glue this on. So what I need to do now is disassemble the neck and the bridge, get that out the way. I'll sand down the edges of the original body so I've got a nice clean surface to glue the new parts on. I'll also cut away that section there, and once it's all glued together I'll do a bit more sanding, and I also want to add in a little cutaway just around there just to make it easier to get to them higher frets. But yeah, good cool project, and it should look pretty darn good when it's done. Okay, that's that out of the way. There you go, she is just a plank of wood again, but still pretty cool. I think we're pretty much where I want to be with that now. Oh yeah, she's coming together. I'm thinking something round about there, just before this join. Okay, so we're pretty much ready to start gluing it all together. I haven't glued it yet. I was just doing a bit of a dummy run trying to work out I'm going to stick it together. Because of the triangular shapes, it's a bit awkward, so I've got some little offcuts that should do the job. Strategically placed, I think we should be alright. So I'm going to have to do this part first and then I'll go into that part after, just to make it a bit easier for myself. But I think we're pretty good there. So I've cleaned both surfaces, I've sanded this down a bit more, and I should really be good to stick a bit of Gorilla Glue in. So I'm going to put the glue in now, clamp it back down, and yeah. An experience trying to get that to stay in one piece, but yeah, we got there. She's glued on. I've wiped the excess away. There's a little seam that I can't get to because obviously these bits of 2x4 are beveled, but she is locked into place. So I'm going to leave that to dry overnight and I'll come back tomorrow and I'll repeat again on this half. Okay, so it's a few days later. I've let the glue set. We've got all the parts glued on now and she is looking pretty darn good. I've been giving it a sanding down from 80 grit to 240 grit. I don't really want to go much more than that because I want the die and the trowel to really bite in. We'll get the smoothness with the trowel, but she is looking pretty darn good. So I think it's quite a unique shape, Explorer-esque. It's a fairly smallish body, but sitting down, she is a very comfortable guitar to play. It's, you know, again, used wood from a building site, so there is bits of damage here and there. There's a little bit just on the side there I'm not too concerned about, but she's turned out pretty good. I quite like the cutaway I've done there. That should give us good access to the higher frets. I have been rubbing down the original body to try and get rid of some of that true oil that was on there, so hopefully the stain will take well. I'm going to go over with some more crimson, what was it, aquamarine water-based stain. I'm just going to apply that with some cloth, let it soak in, give it a few coats. Within a few hours we should hopefully be able to get the first coat on. So over the weekend, it's what, Thursday today, hopefully by the end of the weekend I'll have all this nice and shiny and looking pretty darn cool. From a bit of old wood from a building site, it's definitely looking like a usable guitar. So yeah, let's get this stain on and get some colour into her. So I try to go with a grain of the wood, and I'm probably going to have to soak some down into the joins where the wood's beveled over. My chickens liking the colour. So it's going to take a few coats. I'll try and keep it a pretty uniform texture. Yeah, she's looking good already. Yeah, my chicken's really liking that. I've given it one good coat, so I'm just going to go over filling these little cracks in with the paintbrush and little bits that I can't get in. I'll also add some on, and any excess rub it in. Gives it almost an aged look as well. That's the thing with old bits of battered up wood. I'm not really one for minty fresh shiny guitars. I like a bit of wear and tear. I like the beat up ones. Just a grunge thing. So I've applied a couple of coats of the dye on the body. I've let it dry for a couple of hours. And now it's time to apply some true oil, just like I did in the first video with the 2x4 guitar. Apply it onto a cloth, rub it in, keep applying it till you sort of reach a saturation point where the true oil won't absorb in anymore. Then you let that dry and then come back and keep applying as necessary. But you put it on quite thick and it will kind of like absorb in. Like I say, you get to a point where you can't add any more. The true oil sort of sits on top, and that's when you know you're good to move on. And once it starts getting a little tacky, just keep rubbing it in and she buffs up to a nice sheen. Long process. The more coats you do of this stuff, you can leave it to dry for a few days, come back, keep buffing it up, and you can get a real deep glossy shiny finish. But probably not what I'm quite looking for. I like a satin sheen finish. But it is really good stuff. As you can see, it really does bring out the colour as well, makes it a bit more green. Nice. Alright, I'm going to keep going around and applying more of the true oil. Okay, so it's a few days later. She is looking nice and shiny now. I've given it a good few coats of true oil, probably about 5 coats. Been buffing it in between, so she's getting a nice sheen and a little bit more depth to the colour, I think. There, she's looking pretty sweet. And I also did a full matching headstock, and I went with a bit of a burst around the edge. Now I was going to shape this headstock a bit more pointy to match the body, but just in case I want to use this for a future project, or I decide to change something on this guitar, we're going to stick with that for now. But you never know, I might come back and make that a bit more pointy to go with the theme of the guitar. But I think she's looking pretty darn good actually. So what I need to do now is put the pickup in. I'm going to keep it bare roots with just the pickup and an output socket. I actually really like the sound of it. It sounded not too thin, not too harsh, but it had a nice bite to it. Raw sound, because we're keeping that raw tonewood sound on this one. So what I've decided to do is put the output jack just on the bottom corner there. Now the original output jack was round about there, so I need to drill a hole in the bottom there and then come in with a long drill bit and then meet the original hole so I can feed the wire through. Then after that we can start putting it all back together, wire her back in. I'm going to put a strap button round about there, and I'm thinking on the top corner there for the other strap button, but I'll wait till I've got it all assembled, the neck on, and just sort of see what works. But she is definitely coming along. Right, so I've got the hole drilled on the bottom of the guitar. Issue I've got is the original wire of the pickup is too short, so I've got to extend it and also got to run a ground to the bridge. I managed to get 3 cables joined together, some electrical tape, pulled it through. So with a hot and a ground, I need to solder them onto the wire of the pickups and make sure we cover them up and kind of pull it all back through, and we should be good to solder to the output jack, and that will be the electrics done. So hopefully that should do the job.